liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, sir. We have with us tonight Ed Ditford from the Cornerstone Assembly. And just, I've said this before, I know many council members get these as well, but I get text messages from pastors around town, in particular, Brother Ed, saying that he prays for the city council and what we do here in the government. So I want to know how much I appreciate you.
Awesome. We appreciate all of you, and especially tonight with the long agenda. But there's people in the house again, so that's got to be.
Pray for Steve.
But he's almost perfect, so it'll be a short prayer. So let us pray. Lord in heaven, we just petition you today, and in the words of your psalmist, we pray that the words of our mouth and the meditation of our heart would be acceptable to you. Be our strength, be our Redeemer. Thy will be done in Stephenville. Thank you for this city. Thank you for this council. Thank you for this staff that supports them. We ask you to anoint these leaders. We ask you to use the people of Stephenville. Decisions will be made within the month. And we just pray that our actions as leaders and as citizens will prove that we care about our seniors, we care about our children, we even care about underrepresented people. Thy will be done on earth in Stephenville as it is in heaven. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ed. We have a couple of people who signed up to speak tonight, but they're going to be in the agenda when their items come up. So under general discussion, I'm going to ask Jimmy Chu to come to the podium. He has something to make a presentation for.
Thank you, Mayor. I came here to brag on one of the guys tonight, but I'm going to brag on several of them. If you'll give me a couple of minutes on the thing. About 15 years ago, the Stephenville Fire Department decided to get involved in some state deployments, and we asked the administration for their blessing on it, and the administration at that time and the city council gave that blessing, and since then every administration and every city council has carried that forward. It's been real helpful to us. And we were asked to help form an IMT, or Incident Management Team, and we were paired with Brownwood Department, and we formed that. And that incident management team went on to become the West Central Texas Incident Management Team, and it's responded to some very big events, the West explosion, some of the wildfire fires in the West and things like that. During that, they saw some of the things that we could do at the state level, and when we had a hurricane, and I believe it was Hurricane Rita or Katrina, they asked if we could send an ambulance down to help with that. We sent one down, and the guy stayed down there for a number of days and did a really good job, and so we responded to every hurricane since that time. They also asked, well, if y'all can do that, can you manage emergency medical incidents? Yes, we can. So we sent people to that training, and we've had people going down managing those things since that time. TIFMAS, y'all are familiar with, the Texas Interstate Fire Mutual Aid System. We were in a position at that time that we were able to help farm that, and we had a lot of input into it. And our TIFMAS people here have responded to some of the big fires in Texas and also to California. Some of the things the TIFMAS guys are proud of, they were part of the first TIFMAS deployment in the state of Texas, and they were part of the first TIFMAS deployment that ever went out of the state of Texas, so they're pretty proud of that. And a lot of people say, well, what does all this do for Stephenville? Well, what it does for Stephenville is training. We get training and we get experience that our guys couldn't get anywhere else and under any other circumstances than that. A perfect example of that is something we're doing right now, the vaccine center. When we decided we want to ramp up a vaccine center here, we got a couple of our IMT guys together. They handpicked some guys to go with them, and in a week they had the thing up and running and very effectively, because basically they're just running another distribution pod. They're just giving shots instead of handing out stuff. But that brings us to the piece we have tonight. Another part of the Texas response is the urban search and rescue teams, Texas Task Force 1 and Texas Task Force 2. These are very elite search and rescue teams that search after tornadoes, after the World Trade Center, after building collapses and things like that. Highly trained individuals. Texas Task Force 1 is a Type 1 team, which means it responds outside of Texas, and actually it responds around the world. Texas Task Force 2 was put together a few years later by the Dallas Fire Department initially, and it's transitioned into a bigger deal now, and it's a Type 2 team, and it responds to all kinds of incidents in the state of Texas as far as that. And one of our members applied for that and was accepted, which is guys, this is big. As my boss says, this is a big deal. There's 200 members in that team, and they represent about 20 organizations around the state, and Steamville Fire is one of them. They're made up of firefighters, engineers, canine handlers, and all kinds of other people that specialize in urban search and rescue. And I'd like y'all to help me welcome and thank Lieutenant Monty Parker for volunteering his time and his resources to get into this position. Monty Parker is the newest member of Texas Task Force 2, and I think it's really cool that he received his letter of appointment on his birthday.
I'm just excited. Excited about the opportunity. It's been a career-long desire, adventure, working toward, and everything that I've done to work towards this opportunity now has benefited not just me personally, but it's benefited the fire department and us being able to serve citizens, even if that specific job doesn't happen exactly that way, or we don't have the exact same response model. It helps us be able to prepare, whether it be management or equipment. So I'm excited about that, just to be able to bring that back to the place that I work every day.
Thanks, Monty.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. You know, it's interesting because, you know, you get people like firemen and policemen, when they hear a gun, they see a fire, they run towards it. We always run away from it. So we appreciate what you guys do a whole lot. Thank you very much. We have two presentations tonight. I'm going to call them up one at a time and let them give us about a 2-minute, 1 to 2 minute, who you are and what your organization is, and we're going to do a proclamation. But I'm going to read the proclamations up here so everybody can hear it. It's on a recording that way. And the first one is, we have two ladies here with these pretty little animals with us. One is Jennifer Yeager, who is with Paws for Nursing at Tarleton. And we'll let her come up. And also, if Lindy Hanna would come up here, she is the owner and founder of Annie's Therapeutic Companies. If you'll stand right there by the microphone and just give us a little bit about who you are and what your organization does, and then we'll make a presentation.
Thank you for your time this evening, everyone. I have here with me Xander. He's a therapy dog with the School of Nursing at Tarleton State University. At present, we have a very small therapy dog program, but we're hoping to enlarge it. Our dogs are there for the student nurses to be able to pet and spend time with prior to exams and simulation to help reduce anxiety. So I brought Xander here tonight.
Jennifer?
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, Lindy?
Yeah.
You want to just tell us a little about your program and about your friend. He's come up here and met every one of us up here. Want to crawl on our laps. I said he could sit in my lap. He wanted to all here and meet me.
I'm Lindy with Annie's Therapeutic Companions. I founded the organization in 2016. I've been doing this since 2013 with Annie. She's the original founding dog. We go to nursing homes, visit a lot of the first responder facilities, just try and help out, either reduce stress or bring a little bit of cheer to somebody. We also work with a lot of abused victims. I work with Cross Timbers a lot. I'm at the hospital, so we stay very busy and we enjoy what we do. Therapy animals are a very big impact. It's just another way to help people out in a different situation. So.
Well, thank you for coming. I'm going to post this on the city website.
Okay.
So if anybody has a need or a desire to use you in
Thank
your
you.
program, make sure they
Appreciate
know
it.
how to get a hold of Lindy. Let me read the proclamation. I'll come out and let you take some pictures here in just a minute. Whereas there are thousands of pet partners, therapy animal teams serving in communities across the United States. And whereas Pet Partners has designated April 30th as National Therapy Animal Day, and whereas Pet Partners therapy animal teams in the city of Stephenville play an essential role in improving human health and well-being through the human-animal bond. And whereas Pet Partners therapy animal teams, that's really hard to say, make millions of visits per year in settings such as hospitals, nursing homes, schools, and hospice. And whereas Pet Partners therapy animal teams interact with a variety of people in our community, including veterans, seniors, patients, students facing literacy challenges, and those approaching the end of life. And whereas these exceptional therapy animals who partner with their human companions, being comfort and healing to those in need. Now, therefore, I, Doug Savine, Mayor, on behalf of the City Council and the City of Stephenville, Texas, do hereby proclaim National Therapy Animal Day as April 30th, 2021. In the City of Stephenville, our citizens celebrate therapy animals and their human handlers. Further, we salute the service of therapy animal teams in our community and communities across the nation. Get some pictures up here. There you go. Come stand up here so we can get some pictures in the paper.
I'll grab it.
There you go. There you go. Right there. Can we stand in between?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. There you go.
All right. Gotcha. Let me get you to flip your paper around there. Here.
There you go. She's-
Perfect. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yay. Perfect.
What? She had it before.
Is she calling Jeff?
I'm a little late before this COVID thing's over with, running back and forth. We have another proclamation tonight. Jennifer Thurman from Stop the Silence. Where's Jennifer? There you are. I've asked Jennifer to get up also and give us a little bit of perspective of what Stop the Silence is, and we have a proclamation for her as well.
Thank you for allowing me to present on behalf of Stop the Silence. I'm one of the coordinators this year. I work for Erath County Juvenile Probation Department, as well as one of the coordinators for Stop the Silence and the chair for the Erath County CRCG. Our event is held every April during National Crime Victims' Rights Week, which is set at a national level. And we are working to combat violent crimes within our community, specifically child abuse, sexual assaults, domestic violence. And we are here asking that you sign our proclamation and work with us towards combating violent crimes, towards children, sexual assaults, and then domestic violence.
Thank you very much. Let me read the proclamation that I've signed so far already tonight. It'll also be signed by Erath County Judge Alfonso Campos, Dr. James Hurley of Tarleton State University, and Dr. David Leatherwood, Mayor of Dublin, Texas. Whereas National Crime Victims Week was established in 1981 by President Ronald Reagan as part of an effort to bring attention and support to victims of crime, and is being observed the week of April 18th through 24th, 2021, with the theme of Supporting Victims, Build Trust, Engage Communities, to recognize victims of crime in the United States. National Crime Victims Week provides an opportunity to recommit to ensuring that accessible, appropriate, and trauma-informed services are offered to all victims of crime. And whereas in 1983, April was designated National Child Abuse Prevention Month, and our community acknowledges that we must work together as a community to increase awareness about child abuse and contribute to promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families in a safe, stable, nurturing environment. And whereas National Sexual Assault Awareness Month was first nationally recognized in April 2001 as an effort to bring awareness about sexual assault and educate communities and individuals in prevention of sexual violence. And whereas our community has dedicated individuals and organizations who work daily to encounter the problems and provide resources to victims of violent crimes, child abuse and neglect, and sexual assault. And whereas since the passage of the Victims of Crime Act 1984, and through the dedicated work of advocates, lawmakers, and victims service providers, there's a growing array of services and resources available to victims and their loved ones. and whereas Stop the Silence has been created to combine awareness of these causes in Erath County. Now therefore affirming this, the city of Stephenville, the city of Dublin, Erath County, and Tarleton State University all commit to creating a victim service and criminal justice response that assists all victims of crimes throughout the year, and do therefore proclaim the week of April 18th through 24th, 2021 as Crime Victims' Rights Week, presented this day by those 4 signatories below. If you'll come up, we'll take some more pictures, and Ashley, we'll let you jump up here.
And we would love to have y'all join us April 20th at Optimus J.C. Park at 5:30.
Go up here, we'll get your picture. Hold that up front so you can see. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll get on to the regular city council agenda. We have during our weather crisis we had a while back, we had some heroes that we presented some awards to from city staff. We also had some difficulties getting services in Stephenville, and so at the request of several individuals, I appointed an ad hoc committee to look into how the electric response was to our citizens. And so I appointed a committee. The committee was chaired by Councilman Ricky Thurman. So I'm going to allow him to come up with, or ask him to present a report tonight on what their findings were.
Thank you, Mayor. As Mayor Sveen mentioned, on February 18th, he appointed the ad hoc committee of council members and some community members and city employees to address Encore's response to the city of Stephenville, and to prepare and he asked that we prepare a report that we can provide to the governor's office. The committee consisted of myself as the chair, Councilman Haskey, Councilman Nix, Assistant Fire Chief for the city of Stephenville and citizen Chuck Elliott, Tarleton State University Police Chief and citizen Matt Welch, our citizen and our municipal judge, Richard Petronas, and our citizen and retired district judge, Donald Jones. The committee participated in a Zoom call with Encore area manager Pat Ann Wilson, and I believe Pat Ann is with us via Zoom tonight. This call was on February 18th, 2021. There were a couple of the committee members who were not able to be on that call because they had either were still in a hotel because they had no power. I know at least one of them, and because they'd been without power in their business and they were trying to catch up. So Ms. Wilson took questions from the committee and with a promise to research the questions, provide answers. And some of the topics that were covered were Encore's inability to implement rolling outages in Stephenville, leaving citizens without power, some for up to 84 hours. ERCOT's load shed requests to Encore as they compared to other distributors. Reporting systems and communication that our citizens and our emergency management teams were depending on during the outages. Proper identification of the city's critical infrastructure in order to hopefully in the future prevent a repeat of a situation we had where actually about half of our town, many may not know, was within very few hours of running out of water. The perpetual extended outages that have occurred in the Legends neighborhood, and I believe actually goes over a little bit into the River North neighborhood, that have repeated twice in 4 years now for multiple days during extended cold spells. Extended outages in the 5th and 6th Street areas and downtown areas, which were brought to the city's attention by some residents, and any other areas that were identified as needing infrastructure upgrades within the city. The committee received Encore's responses on March 14th and followed up with some additional questions on March 19th, and those responses were received on March 26th. The complete list of questions and Encore's official responses are included in this report and in our agenda packet to be sure that they are entered into the official record of the city so that there's always something we can refer back to should there be any issues in the future. a real quick summary of what our findings were was Encore maintains that ERCOT's load shed requirements prevented them from implementing rolling outages in the city of Stephenville. Encore was not requested by ERCOT to shed a disproportionate share of their load, so they shared the same. Their share of their load was equal to, say, the co-op who was managing rolling outages. The number of Encore's feeders available to rotate prevented them from being able to effectively rotate and manage and maintain a balance in the load. Encore's communication systems became overwhelmed. I believe their call center received as many calls within that 3 to 4 day period as they received in the entire year prior. Encore did promise to work with city staff to accurately label critical infrastructure to prevent inadvertent system shutdowns that were experienced in the freeze event. Since receipt of those answers, I do know that Encore has been in contact with city management on this. I believe actually today I was notified that to get an official request for location of those addresses. Despite reports directly to some of the committee members from linemen on the ground, Encore maintains that there is not and was not an infrastructure problem that was discovered during the extended outages in the Legends area during the 2018 storm. However, they have requested they are expediting an upgrade to the infrastructure in that area following our calls. So, although there was no problem, they're now expediting an upgrade. Despite the grossly inaccurate reporting of outage status and expected restoration time for a number of local Encore customers, Encore maintains their reporting system is largely accurate. Encore states there are no other areas in Stephenville which extended outages were caused by infrastructure issues. And to date, Encore has failed to address the two questions, both the initial and the follow-up question related to the 5th and 6th Street areas. So I don't have an answer for our citizens on that. I mentioned that the full list is available in the agenda packet, so if any of you would like to go review those online, they'll be available. And at this time, I believe Ms. Wilson is with us via Zoom. If she would like to add any comments, I certainly would welcome her to do so.
I really don't have anything to add to that. That's a pretty thorough review of those answers as we gave them. I can note just on that 5th and 6th Street issues, those streets are part of the feeder that we had out. That was one of the feeders that we had out, but it was serving that water pumping station, pump facility that you were referring to that we had out and how dangerously close you came to losing power, the one there on Cedar Street. So we were able to go in, we were to get that facility back on, and everything up to that point, of course, came back on as well. But those addresses behind that location that were on that feeder, we were not able to get them back on due to us not still being able to curtail load under the ERCOT order. And that is why that section, even though part of that feeder came back on, those streets were still affected. So that may help answer that question for you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And we appreciate your time. I know you met with us basically right in the thick of everything. And so we appreciate that.
Sure thing. And I definitely, I want to Royal Park, I'd love to be able to get on maybe a county, city emergency management committee if you meet, quarterly, whatever you do, I'd love to be able to be part of that so that going forward, just knowing everybody, all the players involved, just makes the communication effort so much easier. So.
Alan, you'll handle that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. And I'll just end that with, they mentioned the upgrades in the one area of town, and I don't know if they're related directly to that, but I do know that I've had several people mention that they've seen new poles and new lines going up headed in that direction. So I don't know if that's part of that, but if it is, certainly, I'm sure the citizens in that
I haven't been given
neighborhood.
an update on it, so but it very well could be.
Great. I'm sure the 651 citizens that went 84 hours without power really
I know.
appreciate that.
And I can't stress enough how sorry I am that those citizens and everybody in the state, went through what they went through. As you know, it was an unprecedented event. I've been with the company 37 years, and that week was the most devastating week I'd ever had because I've been customer-oriented my whole career with the company, and it was a very difficult time, and I feel for everyone that was affected, and all of my coworkers feel the same way.
Thank you very much. And thank you for being here tonight.
A sure thing. Sorry I couldn't be there in person.
That's okay. Understood. We just appreciate your time. That's the end of my report, Mayor, and I will provide you with a bit more of a condensed copy that you can present to the governor's office.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you and your committee. As always, we have council members who are willing to serve and do anything that they're asked to do, and you stepped up to the plate, and I appreciate that a lot. And the committee, the council members that were on it as well, but you took the lead on that. I appreciate that. I want everybody knows that the state is disappointed with ERCOT. You probably know that I think it was 3 or 4 board members resigned, but they lived in places like Detroit, Michigan and stuff. And I think I looked at salaries, and I think some of them were making $350,000 a year, and yet we suffered what we did, and these companies are guaranteed a profit. And that doesn't make any sense. And so I know that Austin is dealing with it now, the legislature is. And so I asked Ricky to make sure I had a report, because I'm going to submit this to the governor's office and make some very strong recommendations. And I have to say, in Pat's defense, the one time I was on one call with y'all, and on that call I probably got a little inappropriate. Well, I don't want to say inappropriate. I was pretty straight with her. And I said I need something done, and she said, by what time? And I said, by the end of the clock today. And I think at 1 o'clock they actually had it installed. Is that right? And so they did take it seriously. However, we had citizens that had thousands of dollars worth of damage due to the freeze. And it's unfair to the citizens for a company, their business all over this town. When you lose money, that's why you step up so you don't lose money. Well, they don't lose money. And that's a problem, and we need to deal with that issue. I do believe, if you listen to the legislature, some of the issues are the way when they passed the current law, it allowed for it created some problems. Let's put that one. I'm going to try to put some words in the governor's office, his mouth. But we got some problems with the electric system in Texas, and hopefully the legislature will address that. It will probably include rate increases, unfortunately, especially with the prices of fuel going up now, with what our president has done recently. But we've got a problem with electricity and just power in the state of Texas. And so I appreciate, I sat and listened to some of the comments. I got your emails and text messages, and Mr. Thurman, you're an advocate for the city of Steamboat. I appreciate that. Hopefully the governor will listen. He promised that he would. So thank you for doing that. All right, on to committee meetings. Mr. Killen. This is a marathon, so if y'all want to just put your elbow up like this and start taking a nap, you can go ahead and I'll say vote, and y'all vote.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I was hoping the dogs would stick around because they said it was good for anxiety, and I never can make these buttons work, so.
They can't either.
So we have 10 cases tonight. First case is.
I think there's 25 voting items, though, isn't there? Okay, I'm getting a hard time, Steve.
10 cases tonight. A couple of them, I'll have to admit, I'm not the smartest guy, and I'm going to have to phone a friend. He's sitting over here to my left, so we're going to ask him up for some help here in a little bit when we get to some street closure cases. But the first case is RZ 2021-001. Applicant Taylor Canute, representing Keenway Development, is requesting the rezone of properties located at 751 Miller, which is parcel 32531, lot 9B, block 2 of the Miller addition to the city of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas. He's requesting the change from B1 neighborhood business to B3 central business. We have some maps inserted on the PowerPoint that show, let's see, here I am not hitting the button.
You know, Ashley's really good at this stuff.
There we go. All right, so the maps here show that we have water and sewer available at the parcel, and then we show that it's currently zoned as neighborhood business with future land use as single family. Comprehensive plan, as stated, is single family. However, this parcel does not meet the minimum width requirement of 75 feet for R1 zoning, which is what was kind of driving the B3 request. The intended project for the zoning is for a single-family dwelling. The dwelling is considered a permitted use under B3, which is a central business district zoning classification. The applicant does not currently own the property, but does have authorization from the current owner, unless that's changed since the P&Z meeting, which they indicate that it has not. And on March 10th, the Planning and Zoning Commission convened and by unanimous vote, with some hesitation, but by unanimous vote, voted 4-0 to recommend the council approve the rezoning request. And again, this is for a change from B1 to B3, which doesn't really fit for that particular area, but with the future land use as single family. So the P&Z did talk about maybe some alternate zoning for this parcel, and the Knutes are here tonight to answer any questions that you may have.
Anybody have any questions for Steve?
I do.
Why can we?
So, the intended use is single family?
Future land use is single family.
What's the intended use of the applicant?
Yes, sir. Single family.
Single family?
residence. Yes, sir.
So at one point, Steve, didn't we talk about like R 1.5?
Yes, sir. That is correct. And the P&Z did actually mention the R 1.5 zoning. And truly, the Knutes and I talked about this beforehand, and I agreed to move forward with the B3 request, but it probably should have been, it was my responsibility, and I should have suggested the R 1.5, and I simply missed it. So the R 1.5 zoning would be probably more appropriate, and it would accomplish what they're wanting to do. I did talk to Mr. Knute and his son Taylor Knute today, and they would certainly be open to the R 1.5 zoning if the council would entertain such action.
So what's the requirement they voted 4-0 to go to B3. What's the requirement from council to override that?
Simple majority.
Go back through the process again to change the zoning. New application.
New application.
Brady, any question?
I guess the only question I had, Steve, unless I misunderstood the material and what you said, stated, I mean, the primary reason for this is just the variance between the width of the lot, correct?
On the second case, yes, sir.
Not the first case, though?
The
Is it not I guess the permitted use under the current classification? and
well,
all
correct. So the 75 width requirement for the R1 zoning would require they have a 60-foot width lot, so it'd be a 15-foot variance through the Board of Adjustment if we wanted to take that approach.
But I guess is there what they're wanting the use of the property to be? Is that a permitted use in the current zone?
Yes, sir.
It is?
B3, B1 is not a
that's the
permitted
question.
use, but B3 is a permitted use for residential. Yes, sir.
Alan?
Steve, help my memory. Where specifically is the downtown business district? This is not contiguous to it, is it?
No, sir, that's correct. And so there was some hesitation based on the term spot zoning to create a zoning for this parcel. But with the R 1.5, we could certainly accommodate the request, and it would align with the comprehensive plan. If we go with the B3, then we'd have to also refer them back to the Board of Adjustments for those variance requests through
So
the
they're going to have to go back to another board anyway.
to the Board of Adjustment, yes, sir.
So let me ask a question then. If they were okay with the 1.5,
Yes, sir, they were.
Malcolm?
You know, they are here tonight if you have questions for them.
Like Steve said at the time, we went with, our intention was always to build single-family homes on both of these lots, and I know we're doing it in 2 cases because it is 2 separate lots. I believe this first, this first one, 9B, would not require any variance from the Board of Adjustment because we don't have any issues with the width of the lot. It's just the second one that I guess technically would have to go back.
Yeah, if the B3 is approved, the 60-foot width for B3, R 1.5 is a 50-foot minimum.
B3 and R 1.5 accomplish what we're trying
In both
to do
cases.
in both instances.
But one you have to go to the Board of Adjustments though,
Yes,
because the
sir.
width on one of the lots. Is it
And
not?
then you have
Is it not?
side-by-side lots, one R1.5 and one B3,
Yeah,
side by side.
That's silly. So Randy, is it possible that we could refer this back to P and Z and do it expedited and have a council meeting the same night?
Yes.
What's the time frame that you'd have to do that for, Steve?
What's your notice requirements, Steve?
We can actually get the notices out by Friday and still meet the requirement for the upcoming meeting, I believe, so.
We could have,
certainly
we
meet
could have a
that.
council meeting by Zoom. Can't we? Still, the public health emergency still going on. We could do it. How long would it take to do the public, for them to go, to have P and Z to meet, and then us, we could meet right afterwards, couldn't we?
Yes.
Because we just have 2 notices, and if P and Z doesn't approve it, then we just don't meet. So could we do, would that be okay with you guys?
Yes, if I'm understanding you correctly, that would be faster than having to go through.
Board of Adjustments, what I'm wondering. I wonder if that wouldn't be faster.
I think that would keep the zoning more
Contiguous with what's going on.
consistent there as well. I think you would too.
How long would that take?
We can have it on the next P and Z agenda and then as quickly as the council.
When's P and G, next P and G meeting?
April 21.
Does it have to have a notice? How much notice do they have to meet?
How much?
How much notice does P and Z have to meet?
Same
54
as-
hours?
That's our
Same meeting.
normally scheduled meeting.
We can call a meeting.
21st, and we can actually get the notices out and still meet the due process requirements on the minimum notice time of 10 days before the meeting.
So what do you recommend, Alan?
I was gonna say, if it's okay with the Canutes, let's keep it on the 21st of April. There is a statutory time that residents in the area have.
That was my
to
question.
Respond and so forth. So let them get the letters out by Friday, plan it on the 21st, and then proceed from that perspective, if that meets with the council's approval.
Okay, well, we're going to enter into a public hearing, and I'm going to invite one of the Canutes up to talk in favor of the project. And let's just talk about that. Either Malcolm or
Mayor,
Taylor?
is there not a notification requirement for the council to change zoning also, as well as P and Z?
I don't know that answer. There's not.
No.
Apparently not.
No.
I mean, you got, what we're asking is, obviously, we're not going to tell the P and Z what to do, but,
Right.
you know, and we still get to vote on it one way or the other. So what I'm asking is, could we expedite that process and really speed up, or make it in the same time frame and us be contiguous with what we're doing now, for this, or be closer to the type of zoning we have?
If I'm understanding it correctly, I guess, so the 21st notices go out on Friday. The 21st would be a special planning and zoning, or that's the regular meeting, I guess.
We could meet the same day.
Okay. And will it work, if it's approved then, will that require any action after the 21st?
The P and Z, yes, we'd have
Yes.
to meet and approve it after that. We're changing zoning from R1 to R1.5. But what I'm saying is we can, because we're still in the public health emergency, we can call a meeting, council meeting that same night and vote on it that
I
night.
think you still have to have a public hearing, I know.
Well, but we're having one right now. We just had
Right,
another
but you
public
have to have
hearing.
one
then.
then also.
We can do that as well. Invite people to come in on Zoom just like we had earlier.
I think, maybe Steve can help us with this. I think, Taylor, you're asking, you wouldn't need any variances. Is that what you're asking?
Right, I believe from what Steve and I talked about today, under R 1.5, because again, the only issue is the second lot that's 50 feet wide. Under B3, you have to have a minimum of 6,000 square feet. That lot's 5,500. So we were going in for a variance on that. The other lot, there's no issue with. The footprint meets all the side yard, rear yard, front yard setbacks.
For R1 or B?
For B3.
Okay.
It was just B3 at the time seemed like the easiest way to accomplish getting the single-family structures on both of those lots. So we're obviously trying to move it as, you know, we'd like to, if it's approved, get started as soon as possible. So that's, from a time frame, that's kind of where
Steve,
we're
what would be
coming
the
from.
earliest, if they did it under B3, what would be the earliest he could turn dirt? Or get a permit to start working?
On that first lot, it'd be right away, as soon as the zoning was approved and we've got the building permit application. On the second lot, they have to wait for the BOA, which is May 9th, I believe is the next meeting.
So it'd be after May the 9th?
Yes, sir.
Do we have to approve the Board of Adjustments? We do not, okay. Yes, Alan?
Mr. Mayor, to answer Mr. Nix's question, the council can advertise a public hearing that night for the Zoom meeting, because regardless of whether the council wanted to approve or overturn the P&Z's actions, there would still have to be a public hearing. So I think, Stacy, we could go ahead and do that, couldn't we?
Okay, well, I would think we'd want to ask the developer here. I mean, what you're saying is we talked about 1.5 anyway, and that would have been better usage of that land for zoning. But I don't want to get in the way because in a sense it was kind of us that messed that up. So I don't want to get in the way of y'all's development either.
But worst case scenario, Steve, 1st of May, he can go either way. I mean, that's kind of what I'm seeing. If the meeting, I mean, by the 1st of May, they're moving dirt. Even if we do the 1.5, which makes more sense to me than B3 in one lot and 1.5 in the next lot. You know, do them in both B3 and go for the variance from BOA, or just hold it off a couple of weeks and do 1.5 on both, and that kind of fits with the future land use map, you know, already in
Okay.
place. But I mean, I don't want to hold you guys back at all.
No, I can understand. I appreciate that. I think, if you have any objection to that,
Just clarification, when after the 21st would the council be able to vote on this? We have to wait till the next scheduled council meeting?
No, as long as the public health emergency is involved, I can call a council meeting that day. I have a,
We can go ahead and post that meeting to begin after the P and Z and all that, the same night.
It makes more sense to have it 1.5, a residential 1.5, so we'll be happy to wait till the 21st.
okay, if that's the case, you want to withdraw this tonight, what we're talking about tonight, this request? I mean, we can't vote can't commit to the P and Z, but it sounded like they were in favor of the project. It's just they were kind of hesitant because of the 1.5 versus B3. So I can imagine they'd say no to that. They might, but I can't see why. You want a P and Z?
Mayor, I believe if we want to, I think we might need to, I might need to defer to Mr. Thomas on this. I know Mr. Barnes is speaking with him, but I don't know if we would just withdraw this or if we'd actually vote against it and then send it back.
Well, I think we can table it, can't we? Randy, can we table this? Can we do that?
Oh, yes.
You hope so?
No,
Well, Malcolm, you're okay with that?
Yes.
We can table it and refer it back to P and Z,
Yeah.
right?
But Randy, if we table it though, I mean, we're still stuck with the same actionable
same
item
action.
of the B3.
Yeah.
So it has to be, we have to take action. We either have to withdraw the request or take.
Make a motion to vote no.
Okay, so the developer's okay with changing that, going to P and Z again, we'll have a meeting the same night, just a Zoom call for everybody. Randy, do we go from here, if they would just withdraw, just verbally just withdraw that tonight, right?
yes.
That's okay with you? That's okay with y'all's developers, we don't want you to hold up your development. Okay,
That's fine.
all right,
21st to work.
okay, so so that's what we're gonna use, you'll get with Stacy to make sure it's scheduled correctly, get with me to make sure we have the council meeting that same evening.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we're gonna table the item and go from there. Is that all right? Okay, thank you,
All
sir.
right, I'd like to
Appreciate y'all doing that.
thank you, Mayor, and the council, and as well as the Canutes for the understanding on that particular case, as well as the next case, which is RZ 2021-002, which we will be tabling, correct? Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna table both of them. Just make sure it's official. Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate y'all. Y'all build some good, pretty looking places over there. That's what you're gonna do back here, isn't it? Good deal. No. That's what you're gonna build. All right. Steve.
Those are actually not the cases I was going to call a friend on either, so. Applicant Jeff Brady is, this is RZ 2021-003. Applicant Jeff Brady is requesting a rezone of properties located at 1290 Hyman, parcel 33798, which is lot 4, 4A, and 4C, lot 35 of Southside Addition to the city of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas. The request is to rezone from R1 to R3 multifamily. Comprehensive plan designates this land use to be single-family. The intended project is for a multifamily dwelling. The applicant states that the thought behind this intended project is that they have been surrounded by multifamily properties over the past few years, with multifamily properties on 3 sides of their property. The Planning and Zoning Commission convened on March 10 by unanimous vote of 4-0, recommended the City Council approve the zoning request.
Questions for Steve? Okay, we're gonna go into a public hearing then, on case number RZ 2021-003. Does anybody want to come speak in favor of the applicant, of the application? You'll come up here and state your name and address. You have 2 minutes. That's okay, Jeff messes things up like that all the time, it's fine.
Jeff Brady, 2121 Crest Ridge in Stephenville. Good to see some of you guys for the first time in a long
Thanks, sir.
time. It's my first public outing. Weird in a good way. I acquired the house on 1270 Hyman through a HUD auction in 2012, and I renovated that property and landscaped it, and it's been a rental property for the past several years. Just in the last 2 years, the adjacent lot to it at 1290 Hyman went up at sheriff's auction. It was a perennial code enforcement violation lot with high grass and that sort of thing. Purchased it. Now that's 1.1 or so acres with the 2 lots together. My wife and I are considering long-term what to do with that, and the highest and best use of those lots of about that size in that neighborhood seem to be apartments at this time. And so our plan is about a 5-year plan to develop apartments there. Don't think anything will happen in the meantime other than maintaining that lot. The house will stay there until we would develop apartments there, and the existing 700 square foot house would be either relocated or demolished.
Any questions? Thank you for being here tonight. Anybody else want to speak in favor of the applicant? Anybody want to speak in opposition to the applicant? Hearing none, then we'll close the public hearing and go to item number 9, which consider approval of ordinance rezoning the property located at 1290 Hyman. Do I hear a recommendation?
Move to approve, Mayor.
Second.
Got a motion by Mark. And who was the second that? I was. Justin seconded. Any further discussion or questions for Steve?
Mayor, I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
The surrounding properties are currently zoned R1, is that correct?
Yes, sir, to the east of those properties, R1 zoning, and then future zoning as well, R1.
Anybody else?
But to the north of the property, west and south, are all multifamily?
Yes, sir, we have multifamily property to the north, to the west, and to the south.
And the zoning is such?
It's the block that these parcels are, I guess, in the same block
Yes.
to the east. Those properties are R1.
Is there curb and gutter sidewalks there?
Believe.
No.
No?
Anybody else? Have a motion and a second on the floor. We'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion is approved. Thank you, sir. Next item, number 10, Steve.
Next case is RZ 2021-004. This is a sister case for the adjacent property owned by Mr. Brady, requesting a rezone of the property at 1270 Hyman, which is parcel 33799, Lot 5, Block 35 of the South Side addition to the city of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas. The request is from R1 to R3. Comprehensive plan designates future land use as single family. The intended project, again, is a multifamily dwelling. The commission met on March 10th and by unanimous vote recommended the city council approve the rezoning request.
Any questions for Steve?
And this is the property that currently has a single family, a small home on it?
That is
Is that what he
correct.
said?
Anybody else? Now we're going to enter into public hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor of the applicant? I have Cheryl Wells. I'm assuming you're going to speak.
really want to oppose.
Well, come on up, Cheryl, and
Okay.
visit with us. Hadn't seen you in a long time.
Haven't seen you either.
How's your
My
kids?
first outing out too, so.
How's your kids?
They're real good.
Good.
They're real good.
Good.
So I'm Cheryl Wells, and I live at 801 Alexander Road and have been for 25 years. My concern is just the traffic, since they've opened up Ollie. The traffic on Hyman Street is coming into Alexander Road. So my only concern is for y'all to watch the traffic on that area and see if maybe you might want to consider, how many apartments go in to this area.
Steve, how many apartments could go in there?
With this one particular intended project, the applicant stated he's looking at 12 to 16.
Okay.
But he's also got a pretty substantial timeline on this project, so he's talking a few years down the road.
Right.
Based on our conversation earlier. So 12 to 16 units is what he's currently considering.
So 1-story, 2-story?
I believe he was saying 4-unit buildings. I don't know if they'd be 1 or 2-story.
Right. So we have the great big apartments on the South Loop. We get all the traffic from that. And then now if other apartments go up, I just want the council to consider the traffic that's really getting it's more like a highway now than a road. And it is a road, it is a residential road. And we even have semis going up and down it, and it's just gotten real hectic the last probably 5 years, maybe 10 years. So I'd just like for the council to consider that when they consider more apartments around that area.
You have any questions for Cheryl? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Doug. Mr. Mayor.
Doug, we've known each other a long time, but
Yes, that's right.
any other questions for Steve? Okay, no other public comment. I'll close the public hearing and go to consider item number 11. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the rezone as requested.
Second.
A motion by Brady and a second by Mark. Any further discussion? We'll see. To vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion carries. Next item.
Yes, sir. RZ 2021-005, applicant Bo Mayo is requesting to rezone a property located at 820 Alexander. This is parcel 33804, lot 7B, block 35 of the South Side addition to the city of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas. The request is from R1 to R3 multifamily. The comprehensive plan for this designates future land use as single family. Mr. Mayo intends to have a townhome project on this property. He's looking at 12 to 16 units as well. Recently, the commission recommended the city council, and subsequently the city council approved a rezone of the properties to the south of this parcel to B3 and R3 zoning. So this is just right around the corner from Hyman on Alexander, but we have properties that were recently rezoned and then adjacent properties that are already R3. So the Planning and Zoning Commission convened on March 10, 2021, and by unanimous vote of 4-0, recommended the council approve the rezoning request.
Any other questions for Steve? Now we'll enter the public hearing on case number RZ 2021-005. Anyone want to come speak in favor of the applicant? Go on, Ms. Mayo.
Bo Mayo, I'm the owner, or just recently bought 820 Alexander. I do plan to approve the property. Been improving properties here in Stephenville for many years. Right now, there's a dilapidated old house on there. I'm gonna plan to clean that up, and there's, it's a brushy lot. Anyways, I plan to clean it up and build a small multifamily, single story, 12 to 16 units. And it'll be nice. It'll be a big improvement to the area. And thank you guys for your consideration, and I can answer any questions, so.
Any questions for Steve?
So, access, Mr. Mayo, would be directly off of Alexander then?
Yes, sir.
You have to cut in?
Yes,
there?
sir.
Okay.
Anybody else? Thank you, sir. Anybody else want to come speak in favor of the applicant? Speak in opposition? Cheryl, you, same thing, or you want? Come on up and, we'll give you another 3 minutes.
Thank you. Just the traffic really again, and I know Bo's gonna do a good job. I've seen his work, so we're not really opposed to that. That house has been sitting there vacant for a long time, so be a lot of improvement there, I'm sure. We do have the apartments, 2-story apartments right there, so he's gonna be building. Are you gonna be connecting to those, or? No, I know they're not yours, but you're gonna be near them, right?
Yes, ma'am, they're next.
Okay, and there is one house that's gonna be on the other side. It's a residential house owned by Ronaldo and his wife. So, anyway, just again, the traffic, consider that when you're doing the ins and outs of planning where the traffic goes in and out and things like that.
Is Dan here? I'm assuming we have traffic counts there, don't we?
Yes, sir.
Can we look and do a baseline for that?
Yes, sir.
And that
Well,
way
the
we
police
can-
have been out there quite a while, just sitting at my lot to see how many speeders they can get, which they're
We ought to
making
get a few
pretty
there,
good
'cause that-
money over there.
I tell you,
So-
there's one, my sister lives over there. When I turn off onto,
Yeah.
they come flying down the
So
corner.
they're making some money, and I thank them for that because.
Well, we're not
they're
making
getting
enough.
Well, that's right. But that's really.
Wait a minute, I'm not supposed to say that, is that right?
So again, I'm not opposed. I'm looking forward to seeing some beautification over there. And.
Mr. Mayo does good work.
Yeah, he does. So thank you.
Anybody questions for Cheryl?
So, do you think that if it's 2-story apartments kind of up further up the hill?
Right. Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Mayo does
Uh-huh.
one single story as a buffer in between those and you. Does that help any at all? Do you
Well,
think?
if it help, well, I just assumed nothing be over there. But when I saw Bo, his work, I thought, well, that's okay. That's gonna be all right. But I just was hoping that he wasn't gonna build the great big ones
Right.
like the Stephenville rentals are over there right now. They're nice apartments, but there's just a lot of them and they're kind of an eyesore. So, we're getting a lot of those around here, so, didn't want any more of those. But, no, I don't think it's gonna be a problem. I don't know how he's gonna fit 12 to 16 on that property. I don't really know the layout of it, but.
He's pretty
that's his-
creative.
Yeah, that's his job, so.
Well, I think that Dan has heard tonight the concern, and I bet you'll have some more looks over in that direction, see if we can control some, because the issue is the speed of the traffic problem.
Well, we have semis and gravel truck. They act like it's a straight shot to the Alexander Highway. So they go down Holly and they're just down Ollie.
One of our problems is we only have 4 north and south thoroughfares.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
So I know you
it's-
can't control all of it, but.
Yeah, we can't.
Anyway.
But anyway, I'm sure Dan will take care of that kind of
Thank
stuff.
you.
And you're welcome to call Dan directly
Okay.
and report some of that. I'm sure every time I've called, he's been lickety split to do
Great.
something.
That's
Maybe
good
he'll
to
help with
know.
that problem.
I appreciate that name.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody else want to speak in opposition to the applicant? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Move to approve as long as Mr. Mayo understands the restrictions that or the suggestions that you've been giving.
We're gonna waive each other.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes.
You'll second it?
Yes,
Okay, Mark made the motion and put Brady on it for some reason. Any further discussion? Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion approved. Okay, Steve, we're halfway. No, we're not even. I think we're a third of the way. Now, Jeff said that he'd keep his at 2 minutes tonight, so you got an extra minute. or
Okay,
so.
I can go a little longer then.
No, I'm gonna set your time limit here in a minute. We'll
All
put
right.
the clock on. Thanks.
The next case is SC 2021-001. This is the abandonment of the 800 block of North Lillian Avenue. The city's been approached in the previously abandoned North Lillian Avenue from Washington Street to Shirley Street, which was then sold to Tarleton State University, and Tarleton State University is now asking for similar action for this particular segment of Lillian Avenue. Staff is agreeable to this request. Chapter 95 of the Code of Ordinances allows for the abandonment of streets and alleys by petition or council initiative, and the council initiated this action on February 2nd, 2021, which was then sent to Planning and Zoning for a review and public hearing and a recommendation to council for final approval. An advantage to closing the 800 block of North Lillian Avenue between Shirley Street and Fry Street will include the transfer of the maintenance and the sanitary sewer that is basically a sole advantage to the customer, which is Tarleton State University. It serves Tarleton State only at that segment. Staff recommends using, actually this paragraph, sir, is we are recommending that we calculate the price of this particular segment using the methodology that staff has on the next case on averages based on the square footage. And again, the Planning and Zoning Commission on March 10th did hear this case by a public hearing, and by a vote of 3-1 recommended the City Council abandon the aforementioned street as authorized by Chapter 95 of the City of Stephenville Code of Ordinances.
You have any questions for Steve? Hearing none, we'll enter a public hearing. Anybody want to come and speak in opposition to case SC 2021-001? You want to come and speak in favor of the applicant? Close the public hearing then and consider approval of ordinance abandoning the 800 block of North Lillian Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
Mark makes the motion, and who, you made the second? Ricky made the second. Any further discussion? Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion's approved. Number 16, don't sit down.
SC 2021-002 is the abandonment of an undeveloped portion of Shirley Street located between Paddock and Fort Worth and Western Railroad. Staff was contacted by an individual interested in purchasing and developing an undeveloped portion of Shirley Street. This individual has purchased a property on the northeast end of the undeveloped property. The street under consideration contains a 6-inch diameter sanitary sewer line, and there are no plans to develop the street as it intersects with the railroad, and there's not an existing crossing. Again, Chapter 95 authorizes the council to take initiative to close or abandon a street, which the council did take such action on February 2nd, and then it was referred to Planning and Zoning for review and public hearing. An advantage to closing the undeveloped portion of Shirley Street between Paddock Street and Fort Worth and Western Railroad include probable development of the undeveloped portion adjacent to the railroad tracks. This property will require that a municipal utility easement be retained by the city for a 6-inch diameter sanitary line that crosses the Shirley Street right-of-way. We do have an estimate presented, which is $15,882 for the right-of-way, full right-of-way, and $79.41 for half of the right-of-way. Planning and Zoning Commission convened on March 10th and by a vote of 4-0 recommended the City Council abandon the undeveloped portion of Shirley Street as authorized by Chapter 95 of the Code of Ordinances. Again, this portion is located between Shirley Street, Paddock, and the Fort Worth Western Railroad.
Questions for Steve?
So what's the recommendation? The full right-of-way, the 40 feet, or
half?
Or half?
It will be full.
Okay.
And if the city abandons that, then the drainage issues that are prevalent in that area become the issues that the potential buyer will have to deal with, correct?
Yes, sir, and then as they do move forward with the development of that property, the plan review process and the development process would deal with those drainage issues through the review with our Public Works Department.
Okay.
Was that your phone call to your friend?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
that
that's
was
good.
it.
Any other questions, Steve? Hearing none, we'll go into public hearing. Anybody want to speak in favor of the proposal? In opposition to the proposal? Close the public hearing and consider an approval of abandonment of the undeveloped portion of Shirley Street.
Mayor, make the motion to approve the case. Second.
Justin make the motion, and is that, okay, Gerald made the seconded. Any further discussion? Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion's approved. Next item.
Yes, sir. SV 2021-001. This is Mike's West Side requesting a subdivision waiver from section 155.6.11 sidewalk requirements along County Road 257, also known as Peach Orchard. This is at parcel 23789, which is lot 2, block 1 of the Excels addition to the city of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas. Recently, the applicant was approved for a sidewalk waiver for a portion of the property facing 377, but the property also has frontage along Peach Orchard, as stated, and additional waivers were submitted for the curb and gutter along Highway 377 and for the sidewalk curb and gutter along Peach Orchard. So this is just to make sure that we get all of the waivers considered for the entire development and not just along 377. The Planning and Zoning Commission convened on March 10, 2021, and by a vote of 3-1 recommended the City Council deny the waiver request. We do have someone here from Mike's West Side for any questions.
Any questions for Steve?
So on that 680, lot 680 on Peach Orchard, is that a sidewalk that already exists there?
We have some improvements to the south of this property at
Yeah,
the
just
school
to the
that
south.
was recently constructed.
Other questions?
Is the property between this property and Washington, it appears to be developed, but it's difficult to tell from the map if there's anything along that right-of-way.
I believe that we have some development to the north of this property. This property, again, does have frontage on Peach Orchard and also along 377. So this would extend those improvements and then allow it to connect to the school, which is to the south. So I believe we have is there some roadway improvements there, Nick? I'm drawing a bit of a blank. Road widening.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll enter to a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak in favor of case number SV 2021-001? Is there the applicant here want to speak in favor of it tonight?
I actually I'm actually opposing.
Oh, okay.
what P&Z
Okay. Anybody want to speak in opposition then?
Yes, sir.
Come right up here and state your name and your address. I kept seeing you look over there like maybe he's the owner.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Bert Thompson. I live at 1109 East Lake Drive in Weatherford. I have a prepared statement for you today. It's my understanding that House Bill 3167 dictates that a municipality must enumerate all comments and conflicts with ordinances on its first plans review. If there's an item in the ordinance that the municipality does not note on the first round of comments, then the municipality cannot bring that item up in subsequent reviews unless there's a new design. If there is a new design element, then only the ordinances that pertain to that element can be brought up in the next round of review. Plans for this project were first submitted in 2019. When plans were submitted to the city, my engineer at Baird, Hampton and Brown received 2 reviews from the city's reviewer, Freeze and Nichols, 1 from Public Works, and 1 from the city engineer for a total of 4 reviews. None of these reviews ever mentioned a sidewalk on 377 or Peach Orchard, nor did they mention the need for curb and gutter on 377 or Peach Orchard. However, after these 4 reviews, my engineer was told that we were required to install a sidewalk on 377 by Mr. Killen. At that time, we were not told anything about curb and gutter on 377 or sidewalk and curb and gutter on Peach Orchard. As such, I requested a variance for the 377 sidewalk, presented my case to P&Z in October of 2020, received a unanimous vote for the variance request, which you folks upheld in November of 2020. It wasn't until after the council approved that request that Mr. Killen informed my engineer that the 3 items on your agenda tonight, sidewalk on Peach Orchard, part of the land we're not developing, curb and gutter on Peach Orchard, again, an area we're not developing, and then curb and gutter on 377, where we had already received the sidewalk variance approval, would need to be, variances would need to be received for those. So I presented my case again on March 10th for those three items. It was actually a February makeup meeting due to the bad weather, at which point it was brought to my attention that the city had notified my neighbors and the public that I was actually requesting a zoning change for multifamily. A mistake and an error admitted to that night by Mr. Killing. But as such, one neighbor on Peach Orchard showed up to P&Z to protest the zoning change, and during the public hearing, she stated that she was only there to protest the multifamily zoning, but that a sidewalk would be nice on Peach Orchard. So as a result, my sidewalk variance request was denied. It is worth noting that that neighbor does not have sidewalk or curb and gutter on her portion of Peach Orchard either. Later that night, the other two ordinances, the variance requests were passed for curb and gutter variance on Peach Orchard and 377. Tonight, I'm asking you to please follow the precedent you set in November and approve my request for a sidewalk variance on Peach Orchard to keep this development consistent without having a sidewalk on 377, and not to have one on the side that's not being developed and that to the north would dead end to a chain link fence. The south property does not have a sidewalk, but they do have some curb and gutter. Also, given the current condition of Peach Orchard, if that road was to ever be widened or reconstructed, there's a real chance that that sidewalk would either be damaged or have to be replaced as well. So I thank you for your consideration. I'm open to any questions you may have.
Is your name Bert?
Yes, sir, Bert.
Questions for Bert? Yes, sir.
So, entry into this property, the way you have it visioned, is it all off of 377?
We had, for all public, yes. We had put a private entrance off of Peach Orchard just for our delivery truck to have an access point to 377 to cross if they needed to go westbound on 377. Because we have to tap into the water on Peach Orchard, since we're already going to be running utilities down there, we were just going to put a road down. It was just going to be a private entrance. But I expressed to P&Z that if they didn't want that there, in order to not have to put the sidewalk in, we wouldn't put that entrance in. We still have to draw utilities from Peach Orchard
Right.
down to the bottom, but there will not be a public access from Peach Orchard.
Other questions? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak in favor or opposition? Close the public hearing then. Anybody have any questions? Consider approval of a waiver for the City of Stephenville Code of Ordinances, Section 115, 6.11, sidewalks. We're looking at one item. This is one item, right? Just sidewalks right now.
This is number 18.
Number 18. Randy, you want to make a comment?
No, not unless you have a question.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the waiver as presented.
So the approval would be to approve his waiver request,
Correct.
which would be to overturn P and Z's recommendation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second by Mark. Further discussion. Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, motion is approved. Steve, number 20.
Yes, sir. SV 2021-002. Applicant Mike's Westside is requesting a subdivision waiver from 155.6.04.M1 curb and gutter along 257, which is known as Peach Orchard, located at 23789, parcel 23789, lot 2, block 1 of the Excels addition to the City of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas. As stated previously, this was a discovery during a previous waiver request to the P&Z, which we realized that the additional waivers needed to come back for consideration so we could look at the full development along Peach Orchard and Washington. So that led to the meetings that were held on March 10th by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and by a vote of 3-1, the commission recommended the City Council approve the waiver for the request.
So they did recommend approval.
Yes, sir.
Questions for Steve?
Steve, do we own the variance or do we have the right of way to expand Peach Orchard?
we require
Closer
the
to
developer to
377.
dedicate the right-of-way as they develop.
So the property to the, what is that, to the north?
Do we own the right-of-way to the
To
property to the
wide,
north?
to wide it, yes.
Councilman, I don't know that off the top of my head.
Well, I mean, looking to the south where the school is, their curb and gutter is encroached in, so I'm just asking the other side of the property.
With the subdivision ordinance, with any development that occurs, of course, we would require the
Right.
dedication
But
of the
those are, that's
additional
already a
right-of-way.
developed piece of property, so I'm asking if we have the right of way or not to widen Peach Orchard. We do have it?
In front of the school, yes.
No, the other direction then, where the trucks are.
In front of their property, trying to pull the map up.
Okay.
While he's pulling that up, any other questions?
While you're pulling that up, I did drive over and look at this, and Erath Excels is directly to the south there. The road has been widened there, and there is curb and gutter in front of Erath Excels, and actually some storm drainage and detention pond there. So this would not be a case of this is the only property that has curb and gutter there. It would actually continue it further north.
The recommendation of P and Z, I'm a little confused because it said that they would be willing to agree if they would delay the installment of the improvement until the road improvement is completed.
At the P and Z meeting, there was some discussion amongst the commission members about denying the request, but requiring that or allowing that the improvements not be made until the city made improvements to the street at a future date. The condition cannot be placed on a waiver request by the commission, so that motion basically failed because of a split vote, actually. But after consulting with our city attorney, following up on a question from P and Z, the P and Z cannot place a condition on a waiver request.
Okay.
Is there an opportunity or any interest to collect earnest money so that if it doesn't get done, and then at a later date when the city does have the capacity, they've collected the earnest money to put in the curb and gutter? I mean, has that been talked about?
Again, that's a condition you're placing on that waiver, and I don't think you can do that.
So I guess really the question I think everybody's kind of hitting at is when Houston Academy did their expansion, clearly they put in curb and gutter and all that stuff. Obviously the road's wider there in that area. Does anybody remember how or why, were there any exceptions made, or why the road was widened then? Because I think if you look at it, clearly the road does not match. So it doesn't make any sense to require the curb and gutter now and then come demo it all out in X number of years again.
Councilman, I don't know the reason why that was done back then, but I can tell from looking at the map that right-of-way does exist in the frontage of their property. So there would not be any right-of-way dedication for this piece of property on Peach Orchard.
Okay.
So, Nick, while you're there, the curb and gutter there in front of the school, I mean, where does that go?
It's
How
just
is that water, where does the water travel?
Well, it's just in front of the frontage of their property. I'd have to go look at it to see which direction the water travels.
Yeah.
It very well may flow to the south there.
We'll just look at the highway across the street, it looks like it would.
Right.
But you think south?
Well, without looking at it,
Yeah.
it's just a guess, yes, sir.
Good guess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question?
Is there not a possibility to administer this and have the applicant escrow the money to install this at a later date?
That's what he
if
just
the-
said, he just, as a condition.
That'd been asked, and that, you can't place a condition on a waiver. You're passing on whether or not you want to grant the waiver or not, as it came to you.
Councilman Nix, if I may, at the P and Z meeting, we were looking for options as we were trying to determine if a condition could be placed on the waiver. And Stacy and I stepped out in the hallway, and we did come back and say, well, there is ability to escrow improvement funds, and we presented that to Bert, but the decision, of course, was to follow through with the waiver request and see where it ended up. So there is a way to escrow funds. It's a 10-year escrow account.
Does that require a separate application from a waiver application, or could we enact that tonight if we chose to?
That can be dealt with at a staff level, separate from this waiver request.
Okay, so we either grant the waiver or we do not, but we can't put any restrictions on it.
Yes.
Okay.
You have a recommendation, Mr. Allen? Mr. Allen Barnes? You had this look on your face like you had this perfect solution for us all.
I think I would leave it up to the Solomon-like wisdom of the council.
Any other questions for Steve? Hearing none, we'll enter a public hearing on item, this is 2021-003, is that correct? Two. Okay, we're still, okay. It's been so long. All right, anybody want to speak in favor of the request?
Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Bert? I like the name Bert. It's easy.
Does he have a friend named Ernie?
Don't go there. Anybody else want to speak in opposition? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and consider approval of a waiver from the City of Stephenville Code of Ordinances, Section 115.6.04M1.
Mr. Mayor, if I mean, clearly there needs to be a curb and gutter at this location, but I just don't see how or why it make any sense to do it at this time. I can't imagine that we wouldn't just tearing that back out at some point to develop the road and widen the road to match what's in front of the Houston Academy. So therefore, I'll make the motion to approve the waiver request as presented.
Here a second.
I will second.
Motion by Brady and Mark seconded. Any further discussion?
Mayor, I would propose that it might be advantageous for future development, as Brady said, to deny the waiver and ask the applicant to escrow that money. And in effect, if the improvements do not take place in the next 10 years, he gets his money back, which is the same as the denial of it today, but it gives the city the opportunity, should we elect to do that, to have that foundation to start with, to have that money in escrow to do that improvement to that section of the road.
Well, I'm going to go to the parliamentarian and ask a question. With that, considering the way the motion was, your comment were made, I don't think you'd call that an amendment, because one would be approval and one would be a denial of it.
You can contract to do what you're talking about.
You could contract for that.
Yeah. Separate from this waiver. You're just deciding the waiver request by itself tonight.
Just the waiver request.
Okay? But if it's granted, I doubt that we'll ever hear it again.
But the staff could do the escrow at that point.
They could, if so
If
directed.
if he comes out and decides to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what your point is.
Mm-hmm.
If the waiver is rejected tonight, if he does not walk away with the waiver, staff, under ordinance, staff can negotiate an escrow of those funds.
That's my point, is Brady's motion is to approve, his motion would be to deny, so I don't see how you can call that an amendment. So we've got a motion and a second on the floor. Is that right? We'll vote on that motion.
I don't believe you can amend that motion.
That's my point, is
Not
I don't
to
see
do
you
that.
can't. One's for and one's against, so you couldn't amend it.
No.
And we have a motion and a second on the floor.
To deny.
To approve.
Yes, yes.
Does everybody understand that's what we're voting on, is to approve the waiver? Have a motion and a second. Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
No.
Let's take a roll vote. Place one,
Aye.
place two,
No.
place three,
No.
place four.
Aye.
Deny?
No, aye.
Aye, okay, I'm sorry. Place five,
No.
place six,
No.
place seven,
No.
place eight. We got something, oh, Brandon's missing that. So we have, so the motion is denied, voted 2-5. So I hear another motion.
Mayor, I'd make the motion to direct staff to work with the property owner to escrow the funding for,
You can't make a motion, it's not even on, it's not an agenda item.
The
So we
motion-
just direct staff to do that then.
okay?
Work with the developer.
The motion would be to
Deny.
deny the waiver.
We've already,
Okay, I make the motion that we deny the waiver as it has been presented.
I'll second.
Alan makes the motion. Is that Gerald?
Yes.
Which one are we voting on right now? To deny the waiver.
To deny the, well, if
We're
we,
on 20 still?
on 20, right? A little confusing here. Hmm? If we didn't approve it, then it's denied, is that correct? Is there even a reason to vote on it?
Not really.
There's not, since we
Okay.
denied the application, so therefore, there's no reason to vote on another vote.
I'll
And so now we can instruct staff to work with the developer and figure out a way to handle this problem.
I'll withdraw my motion, Mayor.
There's no reason to have a motion. There you go, so we don't have a motion here. Alan? Okay. Item 22.
Yes, sir. SV 2021-003. Again, this is Mike's Westside Rental requesting a subdivision waiver from section 1556.04 M1 for curb and gutter along 377 located at parcel number 23789, Lot 2, Block 1 of the XL's addition to the city of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas. The applicant was recently approved for a sidewalk waiver along the portion of 377. This request is to address a curb and gutter requirement along that same frontage. The commission convened on March 10 and by a vote of 3-1 recommended the city council approve the waiver request.
Questions? Hearing none, we'll go to the public hearing. If anyone want to speak in favor of the application? Anyone want to speak in opposition? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and consider approval of waiver from the city of Stephenville. Have any motion? Mark made a move to approve it.
Second.
Second by Justin. Further discussion? Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
I think we all need dinner tonight, Steve. Whew, thank you, sir. Nominations Committee, Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Mayor. The nominations committee met to consider three pieces of, three items that we're presenting to the council tonight. One is an ordinance creating a new section of Chapter 32, Departments, Boards, and Commissions. This has to do with the Main Street Advisory Board and this establishment of the Main Street Advisory Board, setting it up as a 7-member advisory board to go along with this is part of the Stephenville's Main Street program. It sets up the powers and the duties of the advisory board, which is to advise the council with regard to development and implementing marketing strategies. Sets the quorum, sets the attendance quarterly in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Law. At least quarterly, can meet more often. Sets the attendance at 3 consecutive absences, constitutes a voluntary resignation for in a 12-month period. There is no compensation for advisory members. The advisory members of the board must reside in Erath County. At least 5 must be residents of the city. The next item, and I assume we're going to take these all together, if that's okay with you.
Yes.
The next item is the bylaws for the Stephenville Main Street program. Again, it sets the purpose, which is to serve in advisory capacity to the Stephenville Main Street Program Manager in the city of Stephenville and the city of Stephenville. It sets the members, as we mentioned earlier, as 7. The members will serve 2-year terms, beginning January 1, ending December 31st. They will draw for places. They're limited to 3 full terms.
Gerald, can I ask a question real quick?
Yes, you may.
On the drawing for places, I thought we agreed that was a change.
No, sir.
The Tourism Board did that, so they felt like, since
Okay.
that was started with
Thank
them, that it would.
The bylaws also, of course, indicates how someone can be removed from the advisory board pending recommendation to the council. With regard to the before mentioned people serving outside the city, any resident of Erath County who owns a business or property who is employed within or volunteers and contributes to the city of Stephenville and its extraterritorial jurisdiction shall be eligible to serve. We also name executive ex officio members, which may include, but are not limited to, the Main Street manager, the city manager or designee, the mayor or designee, the Stephenville Economic Development Authority executive director or designee, Stephenville Chamber of Commerce executive director or designee, the Stephenville Economic Development Corporation president or designee, and a representative from Erath County. Ex officio members of the board shall have no voting authority, and so forth. The rest, I think you see in front of you. The amendments to, any amendments to the bylaws must be approved by the city council. Okay? The next area is a handbook update that basically includes, and this is on page 15 and 16 of the handbook. It just basically does reiterates this and sets up the Main Street Advisory Board as part of our handbook process. It also names that we shall have 4 committees on the Main Street Advisory Board. Those committees will include organization, design, promotion, and economic development, be selected by the chairman of the Main Street Advisory Board with approval by the board. And we would recommend that the council approve these 3 items, and would make that in the form of a motion.
So much motion to approve the ordinance creating Main Street Advisory Board and attached items.
Second.
Gerald made the motion and Alan seconded it. Further discussion? Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion passes.
And sir, that ends our
Thanks, sir.
committee report.
Mr. Robinson, Parks and Leisure Services Committee. That's a hard one to say.
It is. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Parks and Leisure Services Committee met on March 16th. We had one item of business to discuss replacement of 3 mowers. These mowers happen to be 12-plus years old. This does come forward to council with a positive recommendation, and I'd be glad to make that into a form of a motion to approve.
Nick made the motion. Who seconded it?
I'll second.
Alan? Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I would just say, I know that this is an issue that, you know, with new staff, there's certainly nothing you could have done to prevent this. But I'd just like to say that I continue to be concerned at the amount of unbudgeted items that are coming to us. And I'd really like to see that, some improvement in that in the future. This is a problem we have to take care of, and it's certainly not one that we can deny, but I would like to see some improvement. in that
Talked to
area.
Monica and Alan. Our budgeting process this year will change a little bit, and we'll address some of that. Any other comments?
Mr. Robinson, if I could get you to reword that motion to approve resolution authorizing the financing of those funds.
Yes, ma'am. Make a motion to approve a resolution regarding a financing agreement for the purchase of procuring mowers and related equipment.
I'm assuming you'll still second it. Okay. Any other discussion? Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Anything else?
No, sir, that completes.
Mr. Nix?
Mayor, the Public Works Committee met, and we have a single item on our agenda to discuss The city purchased a 536-acre tract of land on Highway 67 to develop a well field to extend the city's groundwater production capabilities. In conjunction with that, we have undertaken a project at the airport pump station to construct a new 1 million-gallon storage tank and pump of the pumps that go with that to give us redundancy at that station and also increase our storage capacity. A part of the design for that 1 million-gallon storage tank was the extension of the transmission pipeline down 67 to the 536-acre tract. The proposal tonight that we're considering is from Providence Engineering, who are already engaged in working on the pump station improvements. This will begin the improvements on the 536-acre tract. It will design the layout of the well field, including all the infrastructure, which includes roads, electrical, mechanical, transmission lines, everything that's required, as well as the radio connections to run those pumps independently or collectively as we need to. We also included a desktop study to determine the feasibility of an injection well, which would allow us to use the aquifer for storage for potential use in the future. We also included the bidding services which Providence offered for the bidding process to help. Our staff time is extremely limited, and this is going to be a complex project, and they, for this fund, will help prepare the bidding documents and then help us go through the bidding documents. The committee recommended positively that we engage Providence to begin the services as quickly as possible for preparation of construction drawing and detailed specs, as well as coordination with TCEQ, the Middle Trinity Groundwater Conservation District, and the supplemental services for the Texas Water Development Board and ASR desktop analysis, and for the bidding services for a total of $450,000. There was included in this year's budget a budget of $540,000, so that leaves us a surplus of budgeted funds to use as we deem necessary for this project in the future. This comes from the committee with a positive recommendation, and I would make that motion to the council at this time.
Very second. Mark, did you? Any further discussion? Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved.
Mayor, I was remiss last time. We have a guest in the audience that I failed to recognize, and I appreciate you coming tonight. I appreciate your work for the city. Thank you for what you are doing and what you will provide for us in the future, and thanks for being here tonight.
Is the reason you recognize because he has a mask on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just want to make sure. Mr. McClinton.
That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McClinton.
Finance Committee met 16 March, and we were talking about talking about TERS, just because I know you don't like the word, Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone.
Or a TIF, otherwise known as.
So we had this conversation before about what to do, whether we should look at a standalone TERS 2 or something else. David Pettit, Natalie Moore from the Pettit Economic Development Group came down, visited with the committee, gave us several alternatives. At the end of the day, their recommendation and the recommendation to the full council from the committee was that we amend TERS 1 to include what would now be called TERS 1C. That would cost $37,500 to get that TERS 1C established, and that is the recommendation from the Finance Committee, and I will make that as a formal motion here that we move forward with the creation of.
Here's a second.
Second.
Gerald seconds motion. Further discussion? Proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
That is the conclusion of my report, sir.
Okay. And Alan, would you mind, when we get your comments, include that email you sent to me on that law that they're considering? The law about the COs, our ability to tax or borrow money? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Monica,
Mayor,
you're anticipating not staying up here all night, huh?
Yeah. So we have our review of our financial statements ending February 28th, 2021. Some of the financial indicators are high, some are low, but overall, it's an overall positive outcome. So for our property tax, we received $53,000 in the month of February, which is $133,000, or a 2.51% increase over funds collected through last February. The $6.33 million collected fiscal year to date is 95.18% of budget, which is slightly less than the 96.35 that I had anticipated. For our sales tax, we received $944,000 in sales tax in February, resulting in $318,000, or 50.67% more than the funds collected last February. This was the month that we had $276,000 of audit collections. So that far exceeded the losses that we started seeing in January, and then April through June, August, and September. So the $3.3 million collected fiscal year to date is 53.48% of the $6.24 million budgeted, which is higher than the 42.93% that we anticipated. So the sales tax really far exceeds what we've lost on our property taxes. For our hot funds, the lodging establishments have reported $150,000 in hotel occupancy taxes through February, as compared to the $158,000 last February, so we're about $8,000 short. We have received $14,000 of the sports venue tax through February, so we're 2 months into it. We've spent $215,000 in hot funds through fiscal year to date, and last year it was $93,000. The increase is, of course, due to our day tripper contract and the 1/3 of the gateway planning that we had anticipated. The target budget for our operating revenue is $14.8 million. We've received $14.92 million fiscal year to date, which is $127,000 over our target budget. Of course, that's sales taxes and some of our service charges. The target budget for operating expenditures is $8.8 million. We've expended $8.3 million fiscal year to date, leaving us $522,000 under our target budget. Don't start dancing yet. We start seeing as we get halfway through the fiscal year, we start picking up speed. Our operating revenue last year was $14.96 million as compared to the current year's $14.92 million, which is a $32,000 decrease. So the increases in our property taxes and sales tax almost, not quite, offset the reduction in our interest and investments, and then the large insurance proceeds that were received last year, which is not a recurring thing that we would normally see. Our operating expenditures last year was $8.2 million as compared to the current year's $8.3 million, which is a $141,000 increase, and that's due a lot to costs associated with our COVID-19 prevention, our stimulus grant to reduce the impact of COVID-19, some of our damage claims. Obviously, we had some wage increases compared to last year, advertising, and our gateway planning. Are there any questions?
Questions?
So we're, in terms of the money spent on the hot funds, are we on budget? We're not out of, are we out of budget there?
I don't think so. I mean, because we anticipated the day tripper contract and things of that nature, so we did budget for that.
Okay.
It's just, with hot funds, it's a little different because it doesn't work as like utilities where you're going typically, 1/12 every month. Some of that gets spent in lump sums. And so that's why you're seeing, as compared to the previous year, we had that day trip contract, was up front. We didn't have that last year.
Did the gateway go ahead? Has that money been spent or just allocated?
That is money that actually has been spent.
Okay. And then the $150,000 that's come in, is that, it looks like it must be relatively close to what we budgeted from a revenue standpoint, based on us not being very far off.
Yeah, we're not too far off from last year, and we do have a couple entities that are behind in their payments. So that it's not bad. We're a little under than where I'd like us to be.
Are you seeing responses consistent now on the monthly because of the change in the ordinance?
Yes, we do see, we still have a couple that are struggling occasionally getting it in monthly, but for the most part, we've got a lot of people that are they're like clockwork. We had some people that were already doing it. A couple of the big ones were already doing it monthly because they have to submit to the state monthly, the bigger ones for sure. So for some of them, it wasn't too bad. It's just getting it consistent.
Okay. Thank you.
Is the 14 a part of the 150, or is it in addition to?
It's in addition to.
Okay, so it's 164.
So we're tracking those separately.
Okay.
Or 164.
So I guess the main thing I take from this is it looks like our hotel stays are quickly coming back on track from where they were down. Would you say that, based on the pot funds revenue?
I don't think they were where they were before, because even remember last year, last February, we were just in the beginning kind of stages of it. So I don't think we're quite where we were pre-COVID, but it's getting better, yes.
Certainly improved. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, ma'am. Stacy, you have a time clock? 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Let's see here.
Do you want me to hold it up here and give you the 2-minute warning?
You know what? Sorry. Got some good news, as always.
That was inappropriate.
Sir?
I'm just teasing. Go ahead.
Good news as always, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you guys. For 34 months, actually 35 months now, I've been able to come up here and mostly report good news in the terms of economic development. That's pretty exciting, and today is no different. We're going to give you a few project updates. Of course, in executive session, we get to talk about some more excitement that one day we'll get to talk publicly about, and I'm excited to be able to do that anytime we can. Just want to give a few basic ones here. First of all, in Washington Commons, one of the things I think that's important about that is to make sure we're staying consistent. I'm pulling this up because I have a factoid for you. There we go. They are over 90% leased right now. As you know, we made another announcement this week of Ross, which gives us Hobby Lobby, TJ Maxx, Ross, Old Navy, and Five Below, plus Ulta. And there are other ones that are under lease agreements that we're not allowed to yet announce, but they are coming very quickly to fill up the shops area. The entire big part is done. Some clarifications. We've been saying roughly 150,000 square feet. It's actually 156,375 square feet of new retail. Some other things that are going to be of interest as we continue to go down the road of retail, restaurant, and other kinds of recruitment, including manufacturing and so forth. Our primary trade area has been listed as 88,421, but our expanded trade area, which is important now, when you start to have these bigger brands come in, your trade area actually shifts to an expanded trade area, and that's 139,212. So that's something of interest for you guys to know. What usually happens is it falls somewhere between your primary and your expanded, so over 100,000 is what we see as our trade area. That's good on recruitment. That's good in what we use for getting new development to come. Additionally, our daytime population in our primary trade area is 36,576, and in our expanded trade area, it's 52,861. So some new information for you there. The existing Whataburger, as you know, there's a little bit of news out there and rumors and everything going around on the existing Whataburger, the old Whataburger. We had to kind of squash that a little bit in the news. I would say that, just to confirm, they do not have a tenant in that building. We're working with them to fill the spot. There are several folks that are in line to do so, and it's dependent upon how they utilize the space. It's not that large a space compared to what normal QSRs or quick serve restaurants would have, although there is one there. As you know, the existing Whataburger is almost doubling in size. So to get something at that size, you have to really jillywig with and that's an appropriate term, you jillywig with the land a little bit into parking and so forth. It does butt up against some drainage issues, so we have to worry about that. But that's on the south side, and of course on the south side of Washington, we have new developers that are working in with existing developers and existing landowners to develop even more on that side. Some of that we'll be discussing here shortly. But one of the exciting things is that we have some announcements that we'll be able to make, I believe, by May or June that the public will be excited about. I wanted to also tell you about ATIP. You guys are familiar with that. We've talked about ATIP quite a bit. This is the Agricultural Technology Innovation Partnership. We reported last month that we were involved in not only that this is a bioeconomy deal, but we had a grant that was out there that we were sponsoring. I think that what's important about that is we applied for this to help fund the connection between science and business. And we were successful recently in making Erath County, in fact, Stephenville, the leading a recruiter for this effort to get these folks. And what that's turned into is 53 different companies looking at Stephenville currently. 2 of them have been boots on the ground in Stephenville to look at sites and so forth, and to try to see if that is going to be a big fit. The original grant was called a REAP-REDA. That stands for Renewable Energy Assistance Program, and then the REDA part is Renewable Energy Development Assistance. What's important about this is in this particular administration, there's going to be a big focus on renewable energy, and a lot of the bioeconomy is based on renewable energy. And so if anything comes out of this administration, it could be the potential for new companies in that new industry cluster, which could come to Erath County. So that's going to be pretty exciting. The second one, well, that was a federal grant. What was kind of exciting about that was that initially we were just looking to get out of Texas with the grant. We did. We were successful, one of only 2 grants that made it out of Texas. It went up to D.C., and then last week we found out that we were awarded the grant. Now, when I say we, I want to be very careful with that. We are pass-through only. It'll go on to ATIP, which helps us do that connection that I just talked about. So we applied for a second one, which is important because this one is a RBDG grant, or Rural Business Development Grant, which covers slightly different needs. Well, we found out in a very quick turnaround, we were also awarded that one. So we were successful in a 2-week period to get 2 grants that will help fund this for the remaining, for a full year to keep this connection going, which we can work on. It's another tool for us to have. So pretty exciting. Lastly, we've been trying to fill up our quiver with more arrows for economic development, for recruitment purposes and other things. So we have been working with the state's PACE program, which is a Property Assessed Clean Energy Grant, or program rather, not a grant. I'm going to read a little bit about this so you're familiar with it. This will actually go through the county probably. We'll go to the commissioners. We've already started to talk to them a little bit about it. Only as a sponsorship, there's no financial obligation, but it'll help our businesses in our area because it's kind of goes along with the renewable energy piece a little bit, but it's a funding mechanism through the state. So it's a property assessed clean energy proven financial tool that incentivizes income producing Texas property owners to upgrade facility infrastructure with little or no capital outlay, approved by the state legislation and established by local governments. In this case, it would be the county. Texas PACE programs enable owners to lower their operating costs and use the savings to pay for eligible water conservation, energy efficiency, resiliency, and distributed generation projects. Local governments across the state are taking advantage of the Texas PACE statute and establishing programs to further provide quality and valuable services to their constituencies, stakeholders, and taxpayers. This unique program enables property owners to overcome traditional market barriers, such as extended payback periods and lack of capital, that discourage investment in energy efficiency and water conservation improvements. Texas PACE provides a new source of property-secured financing for energy efficiency and water conservation retrofits that does not affect conventional lending sources and does not compete for capital with other investment opportunities. The widespread benefits impact the property owners, tenants, environment, and community, resulting in these things: lower operating costs, more local jobs, and concerted effort to conserve energy and water. Now, even if you're not big into the conservation thing, if that's not your thing, it is big for many of our dairy producers and other ag producers in our area. So this will help them to potentially save money, potentially make money on the back end by utilizing the PACE program. We already have at least a couple of businesses, one that's not ag-related and one that is ag-related, that have inquired about this program. But we just need to, all we have to do is sign up for it in terms of sponsorship, and that allows them to enable or to be connected for all the benefits for that. So it's the Texas PACE program. If you wanted more information, just contact our office, and we can certainly get you through a seminar of some sorts. The other thing that's important about this is when we talk about other quiver or other arrows in our quiver, whenever somebody comes into our office or comes into Stephenville in general, we want to be able to give them as many opportunities to make their deal work in our area. We do suffer a little bit from the small town disadvantage for some companies. It's an advantage for many others, don't get me wrong. But we use these to be able to help bridge that gap to make these businesses more, or make Stephenville more palatable to the businesses. So I think that this can really help us down the road. So, any questions? Look forward to seeing you in a few moments.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion about the consent agenda?
Move to approve, sir.
Mark Mays, motion to approve. Any second? Ricky seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Consent motion is approved. Comments by city manager.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as of today, we've given 11,244 vaccinations at the Erath County Vaccination Center. Included in that number are 254 teachers. Last week, we received the January 1st, 2021 population estimates from the North Central Texas Council of Governments. We're up from 22,690 people to 23,110.
Where does that put us? There were a couple of items that we get, was it 25,000?
25.
Okay, so we're still a little bit away.
We're still good on those. The upcoming calendar, Monday the 19th at 10 o'clock in the morning, we're going to have a city council offsite budget workshop. Tuesday the 20th at 5:30, we're going to have a special city council meeting and council committee meetings. Tuesday, May 4th is the regular council meeting. We have town hall meetings for the May 1st bond election. Thursday, April 8th at 6 p.m. at City Hall. This will be live streamed. Tuesday, April the 13th at 6 p.m. at Ranger College. Monday, April the 19th at 6 p.m. at City Hall will be live streamed. Monday, April 26th at 6 p.m. will be at Ranger College. And I might note that Scott Polikoff will be here on the 19th to answer any questions specifically about the downtown portion of that. We're going to host a series of open house events for our existing facilities on Monday, April 12th from 6 to 8. We're going to host an open house at the Senior Citizens Center. May 15, we're going to host a open house at the library from 6 to 8. April 22, 6 to 8, the Recreation Hall. Early voting for the May 1st election begins April the 19th and runs through the 23rd, 8 to 5 a.m. I'm sorry, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. April 26 and 27 will be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Election day is May 1st, 2021, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The mayor asked me to discuss House Bill 1869, which would modify the definition of debt for the purposes of debt service property tax rate calculation. The down and dirty on this bill would be that the only debt that could be used in the debt service, debt service property tax rate calculation would have to be debt approved by an election. This means that tax-supported debt obligations that are not approved by an election, like certificates of obligation and other financing agreements, must be paid through maintenance and operation portion of the city tax. There are a couple of really concerning omissions from this bill. And they'll probably be addressed before the final version of the bill. And that is, there's no allowance for refunding bonds. In other words, when you have an outstanding bond and you sell bonds to pay that bond off, usually at a lower interest rate.
No wraparound.
I'm sorry?
No refinancing, in other words.
No refinancing. Self-supporting debt, such as if we issue debt for something in the parks and we use the sports venue tax to pay for it, that's a self-financing debt. There's no allocation for state programs, Texas Water Development Board, Texas Department of Parks and Wildlife, and I guess really most concerning is a disaster-related issuances. If there's a hurricane on the coast, those cities cannot issue COs to help recover. If we have heaven forbid, we have a tornado, then we can't issue COs to help us recover. There are a lot of issues with these bills. Both TML and the Government Finance Officers Association of Texas are very closely monitoring these bills. And I will report back to council as new developments come up.
Would you and Gerald, this is an agenda item we probably need to address somehow, so would you take that up? Thank you, sir.
And Mr. Mayor, I have one more thing, and this is of a very personal nature. And it is that I'm a very proud grandfather today. My grandson Caden Barnes entered service with the United States Air Force today. He is the third generation of my family to serve in the Air Force. I'm the one that didn't. My father did in the Second World War, my son did, and now he is. And as well as uncles and aunts have. Very proud of Caden, and we just ask that you keep him in your prayers, because as I told him last night on the phone, you're not going to believe me about 6 weeks from now, but the next 8 weeks are probably the best time of your life. So as he goes into boot camp, please remember him. Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Thanks, sir. Mark?
So a couple of weeks ago, had a gentleman call me. He had a problem, and he had already called the city and talked a little bit here, but he contacted me. And I just want to give a shout out to two guys. One is Steve Killen. He's been talked about a lot here tonight. The other is City Attorney Randy Thomas. They were persistent. They were creative in trying to come up with a solution, and they did. And I just want to say, way to go, guys. Good job. And then one of my favorite events in Stephenville in the year is coming up this Saturday from 9 to 3 at the Historical Museum. That will be the Native and Heirloom Plant Fair. Highly recommend it to everybody. It's a big time. If you're going for plants, go early. If the soap lady's there, you cannot miss her. Her stuff is awesome. So 9 to 3 this weekend at the Historical Museum. Thanks, sir.
Justin?
I guess while we're pitching civic organizations and nonprofits, the Upland Bird Extravaganza is this month. I believe the shoot is at Rough Creek Lodge on April the 17th, and then the dinner will be at City Hall, City Limits, on Friday, April 23rd. So get your tickets, and if you need some raffle tickets, reach out to your local Evening Lions Club member.
Just real quick, encourage you all and invite you all to come out to the local Chili's tomorrow at 11 o'clock. We are kicking off the local option election, which hopefully will be on the November ballot. We've employed the services of John Hatch with Texas Petition Strategies to lead that charge. I think as far as from an economic standpoint, this is a huge opportunity. Some of the numbers that we put together show that if this is to pass on the November ballot, I mean, we can generate somewhere approximately another $200,000 in local sales tax revenue, $10 million kind of in general revenue for the county. It'll be a countywide initiative at the end of the day. So we're talking about some serious economic development and growth opportunities if this initiative is to pass in November, so it won't conflict with the May bond election. But that'll be kicked off tomorrow at 11 o'clock at the local Chili's. So I encourage you to come out, have lunch, and get behind and support that initiative.
I just congratulate Lieutenant Monty Parker again for his acceptance into Task Force 2. That's I'm sure he'll be getting some great training that'll be very valuable to the city.
Mayor, I've got a couple of things. One, so Mr. Barnes confirmed tonight that he is indeed the black sheep of the family. I've been wondering about that, but now he has publicly admitted that.
Mr. Nix, that's scary because my brother is an attorney.
I'm just saying, you acknowledge that. The other, our construction on Graham is ongoing and has been for some months, and has created some traffic flow issues. One of the problems that we had was with a local business that has a facility in the route that has been designated as a detour. That business owner called City Hall and spoke to Karen Wilkerson. Karen was very helpful and very efficient in dealing with that, and I wanted to tell her thanks, and she referred it to Chief Harris. And I want to thank Chief Harris because he and his department immediately did some investigation and checked traffic flow, installed some temporary traffic devices in that area to help ease the problems that were created by the additional traffic from the rerouting because of the construction. I want to thank Karen, I want to thank Dan and the police department, and our Public Works Department continues to monitor all the construction that's going on. I know that's a significant undertaking in itself. This is one of the growing pains that we're going through right now, but it's a good pain, and it's one that will eventually be through, and when it is, the street will be better, but the utilities under it will be repaired and replaced, and we should be in good shape for many years to come. But I want to thank all of our departments for all the work that they do, not only with that, but with the other issues that come across daily for each of them to deal with.
Gerald?
Just a couple of things. I'd like to thank the staff, frankly, for putting together the town hall meetings. One of the biggest items that's going to come up before this community is going to happen on May the 1st, and that's the bond election. It's going to determine what the citizens would like to have here. Having a knowledge base by the voters to understand the issues that is being afforded to you now, and that is through the live streaming, through the town hall meetings, the 4 town hall meetings, getting to take a look at the senior center and the library and the rec center and so forth. It's important, and that's how we learn. And that's so that you can determine how you're going to vote one way or the other. And I want to thank the city staff for putting that together and putting the information together so that people can be informed and to learn and to decide for themselves how they're going to vote with regard to the bond election coming up. As I said, this is an important part and an opportunity that is out there for the citizens. So that's what I've got. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. City Council, remember we have on April the 20th, we have a special executive session that'll be dealing with employee evaluations. I've asked for feedback from y'all, gave y'all a bunch of information by email. I've received 3 responses, and I need those responses from you by the 13th of April for your comments to be included in the evaluation. Any other comments? We're going to recess into executive session under Section 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations, and Section 551.074, personnel matters, and Section 551.072, deliberation regarding real property. We'll be back. Is, golly, that's 8:27. We're going to call us back into session. From executive session, do we have a motion?
Mayor, I move we approve the agreement with Strategic Government Resources for the recruitment of city engineer and planner as discussed in executive session.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same side opposed, motion passes. We have nothing else on the agenda, so we stand adjourned at 11:20, or 10, excuse me, that is 8:27. Well, it feels